The antique jewelry box was the last thing my mother gave me before cancer took her away. I was 16 when she pressed it into my hands, her fingers trembling but her eyes clear. "Keep it safe, Emma," she whispered. "Everything you need to know is inside." 3 years later, I watched that same box turn to ashes in our living room fireplace, while my stepmom Patricia's laughter echoed off the walls. "Honestly, Emma, it's just junk," Patricia said, prodding the burning box with a poker. "This house needs a good decluttering, and that ugly thing was taking up space in my china cabinet." I stood there, oddly calm, watching the flames consume the intricate wooden box. Patricia had no idea that I'd already found what my mother had hidden inside. Documents that would change everything. The real papers were safely tucked away in my lawyer's office, while Patricia gleefully destroyed a replica I'd planted, knowing she couldn't resist the urge to hurt me one more time. "Nothing to say," she smirked, clearly disappointed by my lack of reaction. "Usually you're so precious about your mother's things." I shrugged, fighting to keep my expression neutral. "You're right, it's just stuff." Her eyes narrowed, suspicious of my easy acceptance. In the 3 years since she'd married my father, I'd never let her casual cruelties slide. But today was different. Today, I knew something she didn't. My mother had been smarter than anyone gave her credit for. While everyone thought she was just a quiet homemaker, she'd been carefully planning for my future. The jewelry box contained documents revealing that she'd been a silent partner in my father's successful construction company. She'd invested her inheritance into the business when it was struggling, becoming a 40% owner. Her share had passed to me upon her death. Patricia had spent the last 3 years systematically taking over my father's life, convincing him to distance himself from me, all while positioning herself to control the company. What she didn't know was that her careful manipulations were about to unravel. "Your father and I have been talking," Patricia said, settling onto the leather sofa she'd insisted on buying to replace my mother's comfortable old one. "We think it's time you moved out. You're 19 now, and this constant reminder of your mother, it's not healthy for anyone." I bit back a smile. "Is that what you think?" "Don't take that tone with me," she snapped. "Your father agrees. In fact, he's already signed the papers to remove you from the house deed. This is our home now, and you need to start your own life." If only she knew about the other papers my father had signed. The ones giving me power of attorney when he'd had his health scare last year. The ones Patricia had never known about because she'd been too busy redecorating the house to accompany him to his doctor's appointments. "When do you want me to leave?" I asked, watching her face light up with triumph. "End of the week should be plenty of time. You can stay with your friend Jessica until you figure something out." She stood up, brushing imaginary dust from her designer pants. "I'm doing this for your own good, Emma. You need to stop living in the past." The irony of her burning my mother's jewelry box while telling me to stop living in the past wasn't lost on me. But I kept quiet, letting her believe she'd won. Tomorrow, she would learn exactly what she'd done. That evening, my father came home late, as usual. Patricia had him working longer hours, claiming the company needed more attention. In reality, she was keeping him exhausted and distant, easier to manipulate. "Emmy," he said, using my childhood nickname for the first time in years. Patricia told me about the box. "I'm sorry, but maybe it's for the best. Fresh starts and all that." I studied his face, noting the new lines around his eyes, the gray that had crept into his hair since Patricia had entered our lives. "Dad, when was the last time you really looked at the company's books?" He frowned. "Patricia handles all that now. She's got a head for business, you know. Says I should focus on the construction side, leave the finances to her. And that doesn't worry you." What's that supposed to mean? But I could see the flicker of concern in his eyes. Deep down, he knew something wasn't right. "Nothing, Dad. Jess, maybe take a closer look at things tomorrow." I kissed his cheek and headed upstairs, leaving him standing in the foyer with a troubled expression. In my room, I pulled out my phone and texted Mr. Harrison, my mother's old lawyer. "She did it. Meeting tomorrow." His reply came immediately. 9 a.m. Everything's ready. I lay in bed that night, listening to Patricia's voice drift up from downstairs as she talked on the phone, probably to one of her country club friends. Finally getting rid of her. The house will be so much more peaceful without all those photos and memories. I thought about my mother, about how she'd known something like this might happen. "People aren't always what they seem, Emma," she told me during those final days. "Your father's a good man, but he's trusting. Too trusting sometimes. Promise me you'll be smarter. I had promised, and tomorrow, Patricia would learn just how well I'd kept that promise. The next morning, I dressed carefully in the suit my mother had bought me for my high school graduation. Patricia was already at the breakfast table when I came down, scrolling through her phone while my father ate in silence. "Don't you have work today?" she asked without looking up. "Actually," I said, pouring myself a coffee, "I thought I'd stop by the office. See how things are going." That got her attention. Her head snapped up, eyes narrowing. "The office? Why would you do that?" "Just curious about the family business. After all, it's my legacy too." Patricia laughed, but there was an edge to it. "Legacy? Please, your father built that company from nothing. You're just a child playing at being important." I took a sip of my coffee, savoring the moment. "Actually, Mom helped build it too. Or didn't you know that?" The color drained from Patricia's face as my father looked up from his breakfast, confusion written across his features. "Emma, what are you talking about?" I set down my coffee cup and smiled. "Why don't we all head to the office? I have some interesting documents to show you." Patricia's hand tightened around her phone. "Whatever game you're playing, Emma, it won't work. Your father signed the company over to me months ago." "Did he?" I asked innocently. "Are you sure about that?" For the first time since she entered our lives, I saw real fear in Patricia's eyes. And this was just the beginning. The drive to the office was tense. Patricia insisted on riding with my father in her luxury SUV, no doubt trying to damage control the situation before we arrived. I followed in my modest sit-in, watching through the windshield as she gestured animatedly, my father's shoulders growing more rigid with each passing mile. The company headquarters hadn't changed much since my mother's days. A 3-story brick building with Anderson Construction displayed proudly across the front. What had changed was the atmosphere inside. Gone were the friendly faces I remembered from childhood, replaced by nervous-looking employees who darted glances at Patricia before quickly looking away. Mr. Harrison was waiting in the conference room, his silver hair and kind eyes exactly as I remembered from my mother's final days. Patricia's face darkened when she saw him. "What is he doing here?" she demanded, turning to my father. "James, this is ridiculous. Your daughter is clearly trying to cause trouble." My father looked uncertain, glancing between his wife and the lawyer who'd served our family for 20 years. "Patricia, let's just hear what they have to say." "Please everyone sit," Mr. Harrison said, opening his briefcase. "We have quite a bit to discuss." Patricia perched on the edge of her chair like a bird ready to take flight. "This is absurd. I'm the CFO of this company. Any legal matters should go through me." "That's actually the first item we need to address," Mr. Harrison replied, sliding a document across the table. "According to the company bylaws, any major changes to leadership positions require approval from all shareholders. Your appointment as CFO was never properly authorized." "What shareholders?" Patricia scoffed. "James owns this company outright." I leaned forward, unable to keep the satisfaction from my voice. "Actually, he doesn't. Mom owned 40% of Anderson Construction. She invested her entire inheritance when Dad was just starting out. And now that share belongs to me." The color drained from Patricia's face as my father picked up the document, studying it with growing concern. "James," she said, her voice honey-sweet, "you know that can't be true. We've gone through all the company papers." "Not all of them," Mr. Harrison interjected. "These were kept in trust until Emma turned 19, which happened last month. Margaret was very specific about that in her will." My father's hands were shaking slightly as he read. "Maggie did invest in the beginning," he said slowly. "I've forgotten. She insisted on making it official, said it was good business practice." "She was right," I said softly. "Mom was always right about these things." Patricia's composure cracked. "This is ridiculous. Those papers could be forged, and even if they're real, what difference does it make? James signed everything over to me months ago." "Did he?" Mr. Harrison raised an eyebrow, producing another document. "Are you referring to these transfer papers? The ones dated February 15th? "Yes." Patricia grabbed them triumphantly. "Right here, James signed full control over to me." "Check the date again," I suggested. "February 15th, the day Dad was in the hospital for his heart scare. The day you claimed he signed these papers. He was under heavy sedation." My father's face darkened. "I don't remember signing anything that day." "Because you didn't. Mr. Harrison confirmed. However, you did sign something else during that hospital stay. A power of attorney giving Emma the right to protect your interests if you were incapacitated. Which you were on February 15th. Patricia's hands began to shake. No, this isn't happening. It gets worse, I added, nodding to Mr. Harrison, who produced more documents. We've had forensic accountants going through the books. Would you like to explain the transfers to your personal account, or the shell company you created to siphon off construction profits? The silence in the conference room was deafening. My father stood up so quickly his chair toppled backward. Patricia, tell me this isn't true. She tried to reach for him, but he stepped back. James, darling, you don't understand. I was protecting our future. Emma would have inherited half of everything. This ungrateful child who doesn't know the first thing about business. I understand enough. I cut in to know that fraud is a criminal offense, just like forging signatures on company documents. Patricia's face contorted with rage. You planned this, she hissed. You let me burn that jewelry box knowing you couldn't resist the chance to hurt me one more time. Yes, I did. I turned to my father, whose face had aged years in the past hour. Dad, I'm sorry you had to find out this way, but Mom made me promise to protect what she helped build. He nodded slowly, the shock in his eyes giving way to determination. Mr. Harrison, what do we do next? Well, the lawyer began, given the evidence of financial misconduct, we have several options. Patricia stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. I want to speak to my own lawyer. Of course, Mr. Harrison smiled. In fact, I suggest you call them immediately. The forensic accounting report has already been forwarded to the relevant authorities. She turned to my father, tears welling in her eyes. James, please. Everything I did was for us. You can't let her destroy what we've built. What we've built? My father's voice was quiet but firm. Patricia, you've been stealing from my company, lying to me, and trying to push my daughter out of her own home. There is no us anymore. Patricia's mask finally cracked completely. She snatched her designer purse from the table and stormed toward the door, pausing only to spit out, You'll regret this, Emma. Both of you will. As the door slammed behind her, my father sank back into his chair, looking older than I'd ever seen him. Emmy, I've been such a fool. I moved to his side, placing a hand on his shoulder. She fooled a lot of people, Dad. But Mom knew something like this might happen. That's why she left me the documents, why she made sure I'd be old enough to understand what to do with them. He covered my hand with his own. Your mother was always the smart one. I should have seen what Patricia was doing to us. To you. We can fix it, I assured him. Together. Mr. Harrison cleared his throat gently. We should discuss next steps. The authorities will want statements, and there's the matter of the company leadership to sort out. I squeezed my father's shoulder, feeling him straighten up under my touch. We had a lot of work ahead of us, but for the first time in 3 years, I felt like I had my father back, and somewhere I knew Mom was smiling. 6 months after that day in the conference room, Anderson Construction was finally back on track. The forensic audit had revealed the full extent of Patricia's deception. Nearly $2 million embezzled through various schemes. She'd been arrested trying to board a flight to the Cayman Islands, her designer handbag stuffed with cash and jewelry bought with stolen company funds. The criminal case against her was airtight. Between the forged documents, embezzled funds, and attempted flight, she was facing significant prison time. Her tearful courthouse performance, claiming she'd only been trying to secure her future, fell flat when prosecutors revealed her dating profile, active for the past year, seeking a wealthy new start. But the real transformation wasn't in the company's books, it was in my relationship with my father. Working together to rebuild what Patricia had nearly destroyed brought us closer than we'd been since Mom died. He insisted I take an active role in the company, not just as a shareholder, but as someone with fresh ideas and perspective. Your mother would be so proud, he told me one evening as we sorted through old company photos. We'd found one of Mom at the first project site, smiling beside Dad, her investment helping make their dream possible. She always said you had her head for business. We'd restored Mom's photos to the office walls, and her presence seemed to breathe new life into the company. Employee morale improved as we rolled back Patricia's draconian policies. The old staff members who'd left under her leadership started returning, bringing their experience and loyalty back to Anderson Construction. The house underwent its own transformation. We donated Patricia's modern furniture to charity, replacing it with pieces that brought warmth back to our home. Mom's garden, which Patricia had let wither, was blooming again under our care. One evening, as Dad and I sat in the backyard watching the sunset, he handed me a small box. Inside was a key. "What's this?" I asked, though I recognized it immediately. "The key to your mother's study," he said softly. "Patricia convinced me to lock it up after, but it should be yours now. Everything in there should be yours." The study was exactly as Mom had left it, preserved like a time capsule. Her desk calendar still showed her last appointments, her reading glasses still perched beside her favorite books. And there on the bookshelf was another jewelry box, identical to the one Patricia had burned. "She had two made," Dad explained, watching me open it. "Said one was for keeping, one for showing. That was your mother, always thinking ahead." Inside this box was a letter, dated just days before she died. "My dearest Emma, if you're reading this, you've already faced your first real test of strength. Remember that true power isn't in what we own, but in how we protect what matters. You protected our legacy, not out of greed, but out of love. That makes all the difference. I'm sorry I couldn't be there to help you through this, but I knew you would find your way. You always were the smartest one in the family, even if you didn't know it yet. Take care of your father, but don't forget to take care of yourself too. And remember, sometimes the best revenge isn't in destroying what others build, but in building something better yourself. All my love, Mom." I wiped tears from my eyes as Dad wrapped an arm around my shoulders. Outside, the sun was setting on another day at Anderson Construction, where both Mom's photos and mine now hung proudly in the lobby. She had given me more than documents in that jewelry box. She'd given me the strength to stand up for myself and the wisdom to know how to do it right. Patricia had thought burning that box would destroy me. Instead, it had set me free.